All right, so this is the second part of the SCAT5 video where I go in depth on the details regarding the test. The SCAT5, otherwise known as the Sport Concussion Assessment Tool 5, is a standardized tool for evaluating concussions designed for use by physicians and licensed healthcare professionals. One of the cons is that it does take a while to complete. It cannot be completed correctly in less than 10 minutes. So it is going to take you some while. But one of the pros is that it has a high rates for sensitivity and specificity, and those specifically sensitivity 89.1% and specificity of 80.9% there. So definitely very accurate in diagnosing a concussion. So as far as the test goes, it's going to include a self-report tool about several key pieces of information, and this is going to include first and foremost, the first section is where the athletes are going to complete a baseline symptom evaluation. So the first section is a student athlete background, where they're asked to self-report key pieces of information about themselves and past or even current health diagnoses, any medications they may be on, just to help gauge the test and an accurate result. So they are going to be asked about like academic year, sport, their sex, and then after that is a symptom evaluation section in which the participants are going to self-report 22 concussion symptoms on a 7-point scale from 0 to 6. 5 and 6 are going to be severe, and then 0 is no symptoms. And it's going to be a long list, and you're going to go through and ask whether they have these symptoms or not and have them rate them. There'll be a total score out of 22, along with a symptom severity score out of 132 that they'll receive that score at the end. Next is the cognitive screening test, which starts out with testing the participants' orientation, if they know the date of the week, what month and year it is, and so on, in which they receive a point for every correct answer there. Following that is going to be a 5 and 10 item memory list. It's going to be referred to as the immediate memory list within the cognitive screening test portion. The examiner is going to give 5 random words, and then the next section is 10 random words. They will have to repeat those back, and then later on in the test there will be a delayed recall section where the examiner will see and evaluate how well their memory is from there. Within the cognitive screening tests, there's also going to be a portion where, there's going to be a portion where the student athlete or participant has to say certain amount of digits backwards. So if I were to give the student athlete, if I were to say 491, they would have to say 194 and recite that back to me. As you go down the list, the digits are going to accumulate. There's going to be more, and you're going to assess them that way. It's going to increase up to 6 numbers, and the test is going to be stopped after 2 consecutive incorrect answers or correctly repeating all strings backwards. The final section, I mentioned this earlier, delayed recall, which is going to ask the participant to repeat the original words from the immediate memory test. You're going to see how much they can recall from the 5-word list and 10-word list, and then write that down and score them accordingly to what they had correct there. Like I said, a total score is calculated by adding each component: the orientation, immediate memory, concentration, and delayed recall, with a max score of 50. Lastly is going to be the MBES, or otherwise known as the Modified Balance Error Scoring System. It's going to consist of 3 stances: double stance, where you have your feet together; single stance, you're standing solely on your non-dominant foot; and then a tandem stance, where you're going to have your dominant foot in the back with your non-dominant foot. They're going to be staggered accordingly with heel to toe. They're going to have their hands on their hips with their eyes closed, really testing the balance and coordination there. And an error is going to be tallied anytime the individual does one of the following: opening their eyes, stumbling, maybe tripping or falling. If they lose position for more than 5 seconds, and then also moving their hips into more than 30 degrees of abduction. So those would all be examples of errors there. Clinical application of this test is to evaluate the progression of a certain athlete or participant's concussion. So this is going to be used as a baseline test, as a pre-assessment tool, so you can gauge if they were to get a concussion during the season. You can kind of gauge and see how much progress they have made there. I mentioned the specificity and sensitivity rates earlier, and I have my transcript. I have a table in there attached as well. Thank you.